at 3.0. 3.0 is a global CCaaS provider, built in the cloud, born in the cloud, very extensible, and allows us to take friction out of customer and agent journeys. Enough about 3.0. I'm going to talk more at a higher level about what we're all trying to achieve in this industry to serve our customers. Serve our customers and serve our agents and the people that support our business. So, we just came from a workshop where we were working with a team of industry professionals that were really trying to work through how do I take friction out of my business. Why do I need to take it out of the business? Breaking in and out. And we worked through some use cases and how we can apply technology that's generally available to solve business issues. The challenge is for a lot of, this is really breaking out. Where's my sound man? Oh, anyways. The amount of stuff that's happening in AI right now is massive, and obviously it's happening at a very significant pace. Just to give you I mean, everybody knows how quickly we're moving through technology cycles, but it took over 77 years to get 100 million telephony users active on the globally. ChatGPT was 2 months. 16 years mobility, ChatGPT 2 months. And now it just seems like it's accelerating at a faster pace. So it can be really it seems like just too much happening at once, and how do you take advantage of all of this technology to take friction out of the business? So what I was going to do today was just go through what things are currently available that we can leverage to take the friction out of the business through automation and AI, and how to deploy it, when to deploy it, and what kind of benefits you're going to try to achieve. When we had our workshop, we really started by trying to get that sense from your own perspective. What does good feel like when you have a great experience? When you're going through, and it seems like they've created their workflows and the processes as if they know you. So there's no dropped calls, there's no disconnections, context gets carried from one channel to another, and issues get resolved through first contact resolution. You're not, again, having to disconnect and restart again. I'm sure you can think of some interactions yourself where you've had that. Now, I think Amazon gets used a lot as an example of how smooth the transaction purchasing to returning product. A lot of that is process automation. There's some AI in there as well, but a lot of it is just about automating processes to be able to support those customer interactions. And I think the same thing is true with an employee perspective. If an agent has broken systems and the frustration of the consumer is increasing because they're not empowered, that also can be brought back to the consumer's experience and the agent experience. So when we think about what it seems like when it's bad, it's all of those broken connections. You have to repeat yourself, you get disconnected, you'll sit into an IVR, and by the time they route you to an agent, sorry, but our call center's closed now, or I'm going to deflect you to a chat channel, and you're going to sit in there for a bit, do some robot automation or some AI, and then when it goes and gets escalated to an agent, sorry, but our chat channel is closed, and we'll contact you tomorrow. So having these broken experiences really has a very big negative impact on the agent, the company, and the consumers. So just for the sake of defining the difference between AI and RPA, really we're talking, and there's a lot of AI tool capabilities here that are used for either internal operations or external for servicing consumers or agents, but it's really that cognitive or conversational capability that can be leveraged within AI chatbots, virtual assistants, obviously personalized product recommendations, next best action, and one that we're seeing a lot of uptake in is the speech to text of a call. So we're summarizing it, we're putting all the notes, we're putting into the history of the call, and being able to really simplify that agent experience for note-taking and the summarization of the call. So when we look at robotic process automation, is really about taking the mundane out of the operations, being able to take those repetitive tasks and take them out of the business process. And this has a big impact for both consumers and for agents, being able to simplify their experience and also getting more accuracy and giving them true channels that or true options to be able to find a way to solve their problems. One of the things that we're seeing a lot of movement on is dynamic scripting around RPA, that we can have a script be pre-populated based on agent actions, and that again creates a less friction experience for the agent. So what we did when we had a workshop this week at a off-site with some industry. Let's just make sure I get the right one. There we go. We took some use cases of a customer and agent experience for a fictitious company. They're a technology provider, and they had done some surveys with their customers and their agents on trying to identify the challenges they have. And you can see here, it's probably things you can relate to in other businesses or yourself. You know, long wait times, agents are not supported with the right access to the right tools. There's no channel variety. They have to go through voice, so there's no continuity between one channel and another. They have to go through multiple touch points, and when they finish their transaction, they weren't getting any follow-up. Also, from an agent perspective, they had too many tools. It was a stressful environment to work in. They had high call volumes. They had angry and abusive customers, lack of resources, and lack of access to critical information. As you can imagine, that sounds really bad. We were going through this use case and went, this is not good. But I think some of these things probably resonate for some of you, that you have some of these in your business. And we use this as a bit of a use case to be able to apply API and robotic process automation against these issues to try to resolve them for agents and for the enterprise. So what we did is we just sort of went through each one of these and had roundtables and discussions about what things could you do to be able to change the outcome, remove friction from the operations. Long wait times. Yeah, we can do self-service capabilities to deflect calls to more efficient channels and have that conversational AI in the back end with the precursor that all of your data and knowledge base is in a format that you would want to expose to your customers, or provide alternate paths to overflow teams with callback options. We have, as an example, one use case where on a there's long wait time. Am I on a voice over IP mic? I'm just wondering. Anyways, so what we have worked with a use case where it's very busy. We actually bring forward a mobile app. Okay, I think you can help me with a new mic, or I'll just do a little bit of. Let's see. Did I get the check? Check. It could be my voice, and just that time, you know. So going back here. So what we did in this specific use case is that we leveraged the mobile device to problem. We bring a digital experience that the phone becomes an active participant in that interaction. So they're on hold, but an SDK or an SMS will bring a message forward on their phone with a whole bunch of digital options for them to leverage to self-serve, but also have them queued for a callback. And so anything that they're doing in that digital experience is also being captured for context for the agent. So when the agent gets the call, they're able, oh, one second, we're gonna try the other mic.
Maybe I should try both, and then speak here, and speak here. I could go loud like this, maybe, I don't know. We'll try this.
Okay, we'll try this again, all right. So in that use case, it would queue their wait time, estimated time before they get a call, their place in queue, but it would also provide them the digital options to self-serve, also to provide a survey within that experience to provide more information about their inquiry. So when the call gets queued and the agent calls them back, they're served with all that context. So I've been waiting for 30 minutes. Let's say it's an airline situation. I've been waiting for 30, 40, 50 minutes, and I don't have to sit on hold. I see that I'm in a queue. I see that I'm going to be served. Through that time, I can navigate other options to try to solve my problem, but I can also give more context. Hey, I'm in Munich, on my way to Paris, I lost my bags, I'm freaking out. When you call me, you don't ask me who I am and all of that stuff. Can you just please help me? So when we, in that use case, that information gets populated to an agent in a dynamic script, so that they're able to go look and see, or there could be some automation to, if they get a baggage claim numbers, to go and look for that information and pre-populate it. So when the agent calls them, the consumer's friction and frustration is dropped, as well as the agents, because they're coming to that call with knowledge. They're able to help them with context versus, hey, you've been waiting for an hour on hold, how can I help you? That was one of the things we looked at, was how we use robotic process automation to, again, capture more information from the customer, provide callback options, deflection strategies, and then fundamentally remove friction from that interaction. Also, from an unsupported agent's perspective, you can leverage AI for next best action. You can do sentiment analysis. You can do scorecarding. Or actually, here we go, the mic again. Following the script and doing best practices, being able to do coaching, sentiment analysis, as I said. But in the RPA side, we could do something that's more like that dynamic scripting, where we're able to have it more programmatic and automated, so that we can have that call be followed through an integration to a knowledge base that's based on what the agent's putting into the dynamic script and doing a lookup. One of the things that we're seeing is, if you're going to expose that knowledge base, internal data sources through AI, there's a lot of work that's got to be done to ensure you're exposing the stuff that needs to be exposed, that it's accurate, that your AI engine isn't having hallucinations, a new term that we're all having to deal with, that it's not trying to make sense of multiple close calls to what we're looking for and serve them up. So we're able to really be able to get the right information back to that consumer. So what we see is using AI is in an internal facing application in the short term, so you can get the bugs out, make sure the data's right, and then start looking at how you expose it to your customers, your constituents. Then we looked at some of the other customer frustration, needing to repeat themselves. Well, why don't we pass the context when you're capturing it through a scripting or through some recording? Can we capture the context of that conversation and throw it to the agent when they get the call? Not being able to resolve first call basis. The microphone's going again. I think he's just playing with a dial. Are you playing with a dial by chance? Okay, I'm gonna try. I'll maybe it's my pace. I'm just gonna check here one thing, how we're doing for time. Okay. Issues not resolved. Clearly, the self-service options have to have access to customer data. We need to be able to break across different communication channels and different groups. I've seen a lot where, you were talking about AI and all these great capabilities, but they don't have an effective omni-channel capability. That you can't go from a journey from one channel to another and have context. They're very much siloed. So it's kind of to go right to AI and then still have sort of your basic foundation not functioning at its optimum, can have an impact as you go down the path of adding more capabilities into your environment. So things like not following through, having an automatic callback scheduling, that use case I was talking about, the ability to have your mobile phone play a part of the consumer experience, almost being linked into the contact center with getting a closed loop feedback to the consumer to what's happening in the call center. But in addition to that, you'd have it queued as a callback, but maybe calling you in an hour isn't going to work because you're going to be in the middle of a meeting. So the ability to change that in the mobile app, to move it to say, hey, it'd be better if you called me at 6 o'clock, I'll be finished work, and then move that call back to a time that suits you, is again another way to remove the friction Because the one thing is to be queued and wait for an hour and then not get that call because we're busy. So giving the control of the consumer in real time to be able to make those changes can have a real impact. Obviously, AI being able to do self-service, determining extended offers, entitlements. So based on their buying history, what they purchased, what should we be setting them up? Obviously, there's some vendors in the world today that do that very well. I know that I have some great suggestions from Amazon quite often. And I think other people are going into it because there's a bunch of other options. They're going, yeah, that would be a good idea. Is it AI or somebody's in my account? But the other thing too, from an agent perspective, same concepts, that you're leveraging AI to bring more knowledge to that agent so that they're better prepared to deal with the challenges that they're faced, but also to get away from the mundane work and be able to bring forward information about the context of the interaction and obviously integrating into a knowledge base. I'm going to give you a use case where I think AI for an agent perspective makes a ton of sense. And it's very applicable. I have a friend who's a mental health nurse, and she works with really difficult calls. There are long calls, but she has to summarize those calls at the end of the call. And she can't do it after hours. She has to do it when she dispositions the call. That can take anywhere from 30 minutes to 40 minutes because it's a complicated call. A lot of notes were written down. A lot of information has to be captured because it's going to go to a healthcare professional to go to the next phase through this assessment process. So in discussions with her, we were talking about where AI was in speech transcription and summarization, which is an internal-facing use of AI, and is something that really is about driving friction out for the agent and the customer. In her mind, it was, I got people on the phone waiting to talk to a healthcare to help them through their issues, but they gotta let them sit on hold while they're going through the process of closing their last case or putting all their notes in on the disposition. The thought that you could leverage AI to go through that, highlight, summarize, and have a person just look to validate and verify and make any last minute changes would take the average wrap-up time down to a fraction of what it is. So from that person's perspective, the stress that they're having when they're sitting on the phone, or not on the phone, sitting with their headset on, trying to wrap up the call, get all the notes, make sure they don't miss anything, and then have the thought that somebody is sitting on the phone that's really suffering and that they can't get to them, really makes a big difference. And I think, from a broader perspective of friction, that is a big one across all markets where you have to summarize your calls and capture notes to be able to leverage technology to do that. Obviously, the recommendations and integrating in the knowledge bases are critical for agents to be equipped with that information because, escalating the call, transferring the call, and not having access to that critical data can really drive the stress levels for everybody or the friction. Also, multiple screens and multiple applications. There's tools out there that you can summarize information and bring it into a single UI or a single screen or a single view of the interaction. We've worked with a number of customers that have multiple systems they have to go into, and that again drives frustration and friction for both the agent and the customer. And then high volumes of calls. If you don't have a true omni-channel capability, and you can't have channel hopping or the ability to know that one channel will not lose context of the interaction if you do move to that other channel, could be certainly a challenge. But having that ability to move traffic depending on which channel is better equipped to service that individual can drive a lot of value for the agent and for the consumer. And I think with AI and being able to do real-time sentiment analysis, and we have customers that use profanity filters, so they're able to see that the call has gone off the rails. There's also the ability for an agent through, again, robotic process automation to flag that they're having an issue, and then that call gets escalated up to supervisor that they're dealing, or to a group of supervisors. The ability to take those calls away, have them tagged, so that agent or give them the ability to flag that they're having a problem, can have a huge impact on their own ability to do their job, to be able to have those flagged and captured and not be a needle in the haystack. In large operations, that can be a very difficult thing to, microphones, having fun with me today. So again, more examples. I think when you look at how to move down the path of API and robotic process automation, you really need to see if you can automate some processes to find some quick wins. AI is a big ocean of opportunity and complexity, but I'm sure within your organizations there's probably some automation that would make a big difference for the agents and for the consumers. If you're going to go down the AI path, clearly you need executive sponsorship and buy-in, as it does bring in a lot of resource requirements, dedicated resources to deploy AI. There's a lot of work that has to be done on the data sources and how you're bringing that data forward. We have an application we use from another party that we use internally for RFP responses, and we use a ChatGPT engine to rewrite our entries to get them more concise, to make them more, for easier reading. That is a big help for our people to be able to go through and put forward a better representation of what we deliver. But definitely the data in that case is us. We're managing it for our own use. But if you're pushing that data out to your consumers directly, you certainly need to have that ongoing process of performance tuning and leveraging, making sure you have the right prioritization and identify those priorities for new AI opportunities, and a lot of A/B testing. And I think that's why it makes a lot of sense to focus on internal-facing AI programs, because you're protecting yourself from what's going out to the public domain. And that's where you can really validate through A/B testing, and then you've got a working deployment. You can push that out through a customer-facing initiative. And then I think, again, start with those initial cases for getting knowledge and insight. Lots of things to think about when you're going down the path of AI and how you're going to deploy it. I think robotic process automation, as I said before, can really give you a lot of quick wins for both the consumers and for the agents. When you're getting into AI, there's certainly a lot of areas in which you've got to be focused on. The data is a big one, that you have the data that you're providing to those channels, and the complexity of those customer queries. So in some of the deployments we're seeing is that you use AI or use robotic process automation to get to the call to a point, but when you start to getting into empathy or complexity and you need an agent to be able to take it from that point forward, being able to push whatever's been captured in that initial conversation is critical to get to that empathy and be able to have the agent deal with a more complex environment. So if you try to do it all through AI without any human intervention, it might be a little bit troublesome for some of the types of interactions you're serving. Privacy and security of data is obviously critical. So what are you going to expose? What are you going to push forward? And then that acceptance and trust that there's a lot of education to the consumers that how you're going to deploy AI and what they're going to be leveraging the tools for. Also, if you go without a clear picture of the goals and what you're trying to achieve, that could be problematic, and it can consume a lot of resources. So you have to be real clear on what your objective is, what you're trying to accomplish, so that you aren't spinning resources and really not getting the end state that you want. Also, there can be challenges around scaling, and the employees need to understand what's going on around your AI deployment. There's a lot of industry noise about how AI is going to displace people, and there is certainly an element of that certain redundant work will be replaced through AI, but there's always that need to get to a higher level, to get to that empathy, and that's where I think we'll be more focused, and I think the teams need to understand how that technology is going to be leveraged to drive the outcomes for both sides. Ethical concerns, There's a lot of things around privacy or negative consequences. Everybody's hearing the term hallucinations, as I said before. We've seen some interesting cases. We have a customer that's been doing their AI deployments, and they were doing a great job. They were doing a test on an interaction, and they were listening to it. This is a voice bot and AI, and it was going wonderfully. It was like they were all high-fiving. It was perfect. And at the end of the call, the customer said, "That was amazing. I want to marry you." And that's when the whole thing went off the rails, right? It's like, yeah, I don't know what you're talking about, and you kind of lost me there. And so they thought they were in a human interaction until that moment that they clearly understood that they weren't. And that's one of the challenges, I think, with AI. If you can keep within the realm of the conversation and data is going back and forth, it's great. But as soon as you go off into a tangent out in left field, AI could have a real challenge handling that one, and how it handles it could be very interesting, because it might think that you're asking something that they can answer, and that's where the hallucinations start to come in. They get multiple answers, and then they stitch them together into some pretty interesting outcomes. So I think, in closing, that really it is a balance. It's a balance between leveraging technology, leveraging your human capital, driving the kinds of outcomes that are going to serve both the company and the individuals and the consumers, and leveraging the technology to get the redundancy out, to give self-service options that I think of Amazon on a returning a product. That's mostly robotic process automation. There's not a lot of AI in that process, but not having to go to somebody to get that done and have it be smooth is great. But when I do have a challenge, there's a pretty good process to escalate that to a human. When you try, well, in some cases, if it's not a Amazon direct supplied product, you can get into a interesting loophole. But generally, if it's an Amazon product, it works pretty well. So I think, in closing, it's AI, RPA working together. Get some internal projects working, have them internally facing versus customer facing. Learn, again, analogy is if you don't know how to swim, don't jump in the deep end. You walk in, go into the wading pool, get some water wings on, and make your way to that you have the strength and the ability to go deep into AI. But I think, again, robotic process automation